Watch Who?
Hello.
And welcome to Watch Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm a Doctor Who fan.
And I'm new to watching Who.
Yeah, watching for the very first time.
Very first time.
And you join us on Gallifrey. Here we are in the, Matrix computer room, I'm going to call it. Matrixy Elgin's little office. Engin, not Elgin. Whatever his name is, he's here.
Okay. Yeah. Which one was that?
The little guy that had all the computer stuff.
That doesn't help. Don't say the old guy either. They're both old.
The old little guy?
The detective one or the informative one?
The informative one.
Okay. Yeah. Him.
And he is going to help us, actually. He's going to dial in our guests for this week. Engin, can you just press a few buttons for us? Here we go. Entering the Matrix. And it's Luke and Chris from the Lost on Gallifrey podcast.
Hello.
Yeah, we got lost on Gallifrey of all places, and we've just found our way into the Matrix somehow. But we're here. We're out.
I was going to say, you're on Gallifrey.
There's some creepy clouds in there.
Yeah, what's it like to be not lost and being on Gallifrey now?
Oh, it's nice. There's beer.
Oh, what a question. It feels like journey complete.
Give us extreme detail on what it's like not to be lost on Gallifrey.
I don't know. I don't feel like myself.
It's like wearing a new. To quote Wayne's World, it's like wearing a new piece of underwear. At first, it's constrictive, but then it becomes a part of you.
There we go. Well, welcome back. You were on Ambassadors of Death last time. That was ages ago. That was the third Doctor. He's like way in the past now, isn't he? And you're back for the Deadly Assassin.
Yes.
How's your guys' podcast going?
Yeah, it's going good. I think with the TV show dropping off a little bit, we have also dropped off a little bit. We've gone from like fortnightly to monthly, haven't we, Chris?
Well, it's not without. It's more because we've both moved house. We've both we moved out on the same day of all times, and then we've not really settled into a rhythm where we can start doing them fortnightly again. And because the news front's dry for the specials that have come out this year, we have struggled. It has been tough to get them in.
It has more been the time to actually record the podcast or whatever. And then on top of that, you're doing things like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm doing silly projects like my Ultimate Doctor Who ranking, which takes up an infinite amount more time than I ever thought it would.
Everything takes up more time than you expect. This takes up a lot more time than I ever expected. So, yes.
Well, I was going to say, I'm still in a bit of shock from your last Vengeance on Varos versus Revelation of the Daleks episode on Chris's comments on Revelation of the Daleks when I was listening to that.
Specifically the comment, I think, Chris, that got people going was you saying the directing was bad.
It is.
I was on the train listening to that. I was floored when you said that. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that.
It's terrible. I'm not changing my mind. I'm not bowing to peer pressure.
No, 99% of the listeners know he's wrong.
Well, I would say if you haven't heard that, listeners, go and listen to that alternative take on Revelation of the Daleks, because I found it very shocking.
Seriously, sir, just stop the episode before that. You're done then. Just stop before it. You're fine. You'll be fine. Trust me.
Yeah, and Colin Baker was in our last podcast, so there's a sell for anyone.
Yeah, yes, he was.
Yeah.
Thanks to me doing a little bit of groveling.
It's about time you started pulling your weight on the podcast, Chris.
Hey, there's a lot of weight for me to pull. I'll always stick like you.
Well, I enjoy your immediate takes as well that you do, you know, when the new Doctor was cast and when there's a new episode on.
Instant reaction episodes. I got to say, I really enjoy doing them because it's like, I'm not saying you don't want to do the usual podcast episodes, but you really want to do the instant reactions. You really want to tell people this was shit or this was good. I can't. Can we swear on this? I can't remember.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I broke the rule a long time ago.
One of the first things I ever learned when I started doing radio and podcasting stuff was back at university, and I did accidentally swear on the radio. And when I turned around, I just like, oh God, I was absolutely mortified coming out of the recording booth. And the first thing fella said to me was just shit happens. And I was like, I've stuck with that mentality throughout now, so I don't give a fuck now. I just swear all the time.
Mark used to like put on like explicits specifically for me. It comes back to our chalk and cheese situation. Mark's like the good angel who just, it's very rare that Mark swears.
If it's about missing episodes.
There was an episode recently when Mark swore. What was that one? I remember it.
It was because it took me back.
It shocked me to the core when I heard it.
I can't remember what it was. I must have got angry about something.
Something quite small. I think that's why it was so shocking.
Yeah. It rarely happens, whereas I'm just a potty mouth, so I can't help it.
Well, I'll be looking forward to hearing your instant take on the centenary special when it comes out, which I hope you guys will be doing.
Well, we do have apparently we do have a title according to Wikipedia. It's going to be called The Final Countdown. So if they don't play Europe anywhere within the episode, I'm going to instantly declare it shit. Straight up.
Mark must know the title. I mean, I want to talk to you off record after this because Mark's seen the script for the centenary special.
Oh,
he has. Yeah. I've not even seen it. He wouldn't even let me see it.
I'm not working there now, so I can be less professional and say yes, I have a bit of the script.
Very funny story.
Well, before we go into the story today, I've got a couple of updates. Our listener Lucas got in touch. We were talking about the Doskers. He was saying about adding Doskers categories, and he's put together a wiki page of all of our Doskers, a guide to the Doskers.
Which I will link to in the notes.
Thank you so much, because Mark has no excuse anymore.
So we can keep track. So there's loads of things in there that I did. It's got like the number of categories, who won, what, where they're all set, everything. It's gone into so much detail. So I want to say thank you to Lucas for doing that.
Because I was never going to do it. Let's be honest, Mark wasn't. And Mark's supposed to be the brains.
Thank you so much for that. We will be using that definitely. And also, I went to the BFI to the Abominable Snowmen screening. That was one, I don't know, Sarah, if you remember that story.
Well, I do, because it had pad in it and it went on forever.
With pad.
But it was really good. It's much easier to follow the story than those really bad telesnaps. It's like Fury from the Deep animation without the long arms.
Well, Pad still annoy me because
they've really redone Pad. He's really scary in it now. They have. Have you guys had a chance to see any? Got the DVD or anything?
No, I'd be watching it right now.
I didn't order it.
It's worth watching. It is worth watching. I think
I like the Abominable Snowmen though. I do like it. Whereas I remember it came in for quite a kick in on To Watch Who.
I think Well, I did pick up from a local branch of CEX. Dalek Invasion Earth 2150. Still got the price tag on it. So I have bought something Doctor Who related. I also got from Dan Pin, and one of our listeners, probably one of yours as well, I suspect, a absolutely lovely gift of a Sylvester McCoy RPG book for Doctor Who called Time Lord, and it was absolutely lovely. I was absolutely made up with it. He sent me this handwritten letter as well. It was absolutely, got me right here. So I just wanted to plug it again. I know I keep saying it, but I really haven't come down off the high, so hopefully I'll be running that soon.
I'll say before, listeners are just so amazing, aren't they?
I was just going to say, big hearts and loves out to listeners, because listeners make it. So, and support and everything. It's awesome. I will give it that. Sometimes I will have my rants about fandom, especially when I go down the Doctor Who rabbit holes and end up on no Doctor accounts and stuff, and I get confused about what's happening. But our listeners, generally, they're all wonderful people, and I love our discussions on socials and stuff like that. And yeah, fans are great. Big hearts.
And speaking of which, I met a listener on Saturday at the BFI. Shout out to James, who said to say hi to Sarah, who you
sort of know.
I know.
So
from a previous life.
Yeah. So we had a good chat. I think he enjoyed Abominable Snowmen as well. So as did everyone. There's a lot of humour in it as well. That's the thing about the screenings. When you're in a room full of Doctor Who fans watching, the sort of the things that people react to, like all the Jamie and Victoria stuff in it, it was getting a lot of laughs.
That's why we would do, when we were doing it together, that's why we'd do food. So it felt more like a thing.
Yeah.
You'd order like a takeaway and make it a thing. Because then for that reason, because otherwise, especially for me, I think it's different for Mark in that if he knows the story's coming up and it's one of his favourites, he's like in it. I've no idea what's coming up. And I'm like, no idea what to expect. So for me, it's a bit more of a, oh, gosh, okay, what's going to happen here? Am I even going to like this? So food helped. Food always helps. Yeah. In fact, while I was watching this, shout out to Mrs. Potts Chocolate House, I ate a double chocolate cookie sandwich.
Oh, so did we all watch this sort of all in one go?
I watched it in work. I tend to spread my because I have the amount of breaks I get in work, and they do perfectly fit an episode of Doctor Who, so I can fit in a 4-parter over the course of my workday. So the great part is because I get the breaks as well, I actually get a stop between part 1 and 2 and part 3 and 4. So I do actually sort of get into that. Oh, I have to wait now for it to come up. Not a week, but 1.5 hours is like a week in modern times because obviously time's sped up significantly since when was it made?
1976?
76, I think, yeah.
I was going to say 74, but I was only 2 years out.
Chris, had you seen this before?
Nope, I'm going in blind. I'm just
Chris.
like,
wow.
I think you could be lying there. I've got a memory. Now, I don't know if it's a real one or I've made it up. I've got a memory of you coming to my house and us watching at least the first 2 parts in my bedroom on a tiny, tiny TV years and years and years ago. No, you weren't. We were like 13, 14.
I don't remember this at all.
I feel like it happened, but we didn't finish it.
Oh, have you just had a really sad dream?
Possibly.
My dream was my friend came over and we watched Doctor Who. It's just the last 2 episodes.
I didn't finish it, so it could go on forever. I actually had a really good, I finished work on Friday and just happened to have 2 hours free. And it was just like a perfect amount of time to just actually enjoy it and sit down and watch it.
It's not one that I would normally go for. A couple of reasons. Gallifrey stuff can be a bit hit and miss sometimes. I'm not always keen on the Gallifrey stuff. And the Doctor sort of travelling solo, which is, I think, is the first time up to this point. So when I was sort of younger watching this one, it didn't have, apart from maybe episode 3 with all the surreal stuff, all the sort of politics and things I wasn't really interested in. But actually watching it again now, like recently I watched it yesterday, I was getting into that a bit more. And it's funny how you go back sometimes and watch it in sort of in a different way.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like Gallifrey, can be just a bit dull and a bit boring or whatever. But from childhood, I've always really, really liked this one. I think when I was a kid, episode 3 was like, it was so action packed, and Doctor Who was all about running and going through explosions and everything. So episode 3 was just like great to me. Now, I mean, it's actually not that actiony. When I was watching it yesterday, it's more like tactical. It's more sitting in trees and blowing darts and stuff.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
I'll tell you what it feels like for me. I felt that this was very Sherlock Holmes, this sort of episode, and I felt like it played into Tom Baker really, really well. It played sort of like a Sherlock Holmes story, but also a boy's own adventure, especially in episode 3, feels like a boy's own adventure. I also got a sort of Predator vibe sort of coming off it as well, just a little bit, obviously not too close, but enough for me to think, ooh, Predator, this actually looks pretty damn cool, I honestly, I thought it was really enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the politicking in part 1. I enjoyed the sort of Minority Report detective story in part 2. I enjoyed all the boys' own adventure stuff in part 3, and I enjoyed part 4 as a good conclusion. I did like the episode a lot.
Yeah,
I was confused.
Oh,
I was going to ask this, right, because I think I like this a lot. When I was a kid, I used to like Gallifrey stuff, and it'd be what pulled me in as a fan. But watching part 1, there's a lot of just babble that I was thinking if you're not a fan. So I was really intrigued to see what you
I was so confused. To the point where after it ended, I read a synopsis online of the episode to check what had just happened. And I was like, okay. So like the politics side, that I was like, okay, he's watched something happen. So he's trying to prevent that. And I just couldn't understand his course of action. There was all this like going on and on, but I couldn't understand the doctor's like, why was he trying to get a rope? Like he was really urgent with stuff. But I was like, why? I was like, have I missed something? Like he's really urgent to, and then he's in there, and then he went up, and I think it's because there's no companions, there's no one to bounce off. So we're just like that. So you're just watching it unfold, and then it ended with him being shot, and what we see is the premonition. And I was like, I'm so confused. So did he just do that? Like what? Like, I don't understand. We just watched a whole episode building up to the doctor just shooting a guy that we saw at the start. That wouldn't be very doctory. I was very and the scary face, right? So we see scary face, and I was like, that is scary. And it's only when in the credits it said the master, and I was like, I didn't see the master, so I was even more confused because I was like, well, hang on a minute, who was that thing? Where was the master? Like, because it didn't indicate it being the master. You just saw the face for a bit, and there was maybe a little bit of dialogue, but he didn't say, like, there was no indication of that.
Well, we haven't really had like Time Lordy proper stuff since the War Games, and this is the first time we're sort of relying on a lot of history. I mean, I suppose we had Omega in the Three Doctors, but this is the first time it's really for fans, I suppose. If you're a fan and you've watched all that time, then you're going to get all this stuff. I
mean, I don't think it mattered. Like, we have politics on every bloody planet we go on.
Yeah,
they all have their own politics. Yeah. You could have just come. It just so happens to be the Doctor's planet's politics, but like, politics is politics in terms of Doctor Who, and every planet has its own version of it.
I think it comes down to like, this is the episode that basically invented Doctor Who nerds, right? Like, if you get what I'm saying, it's like, if you went through this episode and you understood it, you're absorbed by it, you'd be a fan of the show forever, and you'd constantly quote it back at people saying, "Oh, but it said this in the Deadly Assassins. Oh, yeah, you know, this, that, the other." So
can you hear that? No, okay, no. There's like a thunder, absolute downpour, and all I can hear is rain. So I was really worried that it was picking up with you guys. So sorry, carry on. Sorry.
I don't know. But like this for me is like if you enjoy this episode and you understood it all, or you felt compelled that you wanted to understand it all, this was like the episode that would turn you into a Doctor Who mega fan. And for those that didn't have that interest, I could see it being very close to a Saranga conundrum sort of problem if you didn't want to get it, that sort of thing. Well, maybe not that bad, because it's still a good action story at least. But this is like the episode where Doctor Who could have easily jumped the shark and it didn't, for me.
Yeah. I think it is a bit of a mindfuck, that first episode. Like, especially how it starts. It purposely messes with your head, and then on top of that, like you have in the first 5 minutes, you got Pridonian, Castellan Capital, CIA, Matrix, all these different.
The CIA
things.
Proper made me laugh.
As a fan, you know so much about from all different spin-offs all over the place, but as a regular viewer, must just be like, what is this? It's just technobabble took up to the extreme, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was, and like, to the point where I just brush over it, because unless it's going to serve into the story, in which case then I'll be moaning, well, then it's almost too much. And then I was like, well, hang on. That's why I got to the end and I was like, what's just happened?
Yeah.
The master in the credits, I was like, what is going on? What has happened? So
again, the ending is purposely unclear, isn't it? But I mean, if you're going to do a Doskers, or you think of new awards for the Doskers, if you're going to do best cliffhanger, this has got to win.
Don't add more categories.
I've got good ones.
Just remember what we have.
I've got great. These are good.
Is one of my all-time favorite cliffhangers. I think now episode 1 is probably my favorite of the 4. But it just doesn't get better. The president of Gallifrey being assassinated by the Doctor, like that. It's just what a cliffhanger. And I know there's a little sneaky edit in part 2 to make it a bit of a cop out, but
it looks cool though. That's the point.
Looks great.
You see,
and I loved all
them as a
like
premonition, and it proper. like, I know that Minority Report came many, many, many years after, but seeing basically the plot of Minority Report play out on a small screen TV in 1976, I was like blown away. I was like, oh, this is actually really, really good.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the film Vantage Point?
Vantage Point is similar. Yes, I have seen Vantage
Point. Because that's like that's all based around an assassination, and I used to love that as a kid. And that is again.
Well, I do know the film you mean, though.
Yeah, it's like you see the assassination like 10 times from different people's perspectives.
It's from 8 different perspectives.
Yeah,
I have heard of it.
You would love it, Mark.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, but you've got this Star Wars opening with a bit of information.
Oh yeah,
I literally went, ooh! I actually got it.
That's a bit different.
But then, hello.
And
I read along with the Doctor. I felt really like I love reading. Do you know what? I do watch things with subtitles because I like reading along. So I read along with the Doctor.
Did Star Wars copy Doctor Who?
Because Star Wars wouldn't. Oh, when was Star Wars out?
The next year, it was 77.
Next year, yeah.
Oh my god, it has the credit scroll on it. Shit.
Yeah.
I've just realised. Well, technically, they're all copying Flash Gordon, so there is that.
It's a slightly different style as well. Whereas in Star Wars, it's like a triangle.
Sort of.
The Flash Gordon serials are more like that, and then Red Dwarf did it at the start of season 3 to explain the skip as well.
Ones.
Yeah. I actually went back and actually watched it in slow-mo so I could read the whole thing, and it's actually quite funny.
That part was one of my favorite. I mean, I've never watched Star Wars. I've watched like the first 10 minutes of one of them. So I know like the scrolly bit at the start. And then there was some sort of battle and then I walked out. It was whenever, they always put it on whenever it was raining in school. They'd put it on.
Star Wars? That's pretty cool. We never got Star Wars. We've got like...
Wow.
My primary school was cool, all right? We've had this talk. But... we put Star Wars on and I just got bored and walked out and then went into another room and played games.
Actually, no, my primary school was cool because like we got to do this like project in year 4 or something like that. And this was the year that Doctor Who had just come back. So me and 2 of my friends built this paper mache life-size Dalek in my garage. And we took it in and did this whole discussion on it that took about an hour as it was like right at the end of the year. And, you know, I always get a free lesson like every now and again. And we did this whole thing and it was brilliant, honestly. I've still got photos of that Dalek. I was so proud of it. One of the most creative thing I've ever done. Our end of year
thing was we used to all get given glue guns and saws. And we used to make cars, and then we'd spend all week making these cars in primary school, and then we'd race them. And the only person, the only person that ever had a glue gun related incident was the head teacher's son.
Typical.
I'm trying to find a link here.
Great.
Yeah, Mark, get us on track.
Well,
okay. Well, if you swap out a glue gun for like an assassination gun,
then we can try.
Oh, we should say
the president is glue gun.
We should say that today's the day that the new PM has been announced in our time.
And we went back to topic and away we go again.
No, but at 12:30 today, I was half expecting to see Boris Johnson be shot just before he named Liz Truss.
Where were we? We haven't even got. So he's had a premonition about the president being killed. That's as far as we've got, really.
And then we meet our characters. So we've got the Castellan.
Start to the episode.
So we got Spandrel, who's been in Doctor Who before, who was last seen in The Mutants as Jaeger Bomb Man. Do you remember him?
I did not know that.
I don't.
In The Mutants, you know, The Mutants with the mutts, and it had the Squire from the Smugglers in it, and he's like the scientist guy, and he's also in Enemy of the World as well.
Oh, sorry, but
where is he in Enemy of the World?
But hang on, is it just the actor, or is it actually Spandrel that's in?
Oh no, sorry, the actor.
Oh right.
Okay, that's fine.
That's how I
right
explain things.
I was so confused.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is that like the secret out to Salamander? He is actually a clone of Patrick Troughton created by Spandrel or some shit.
He's great. He's a bit of a pro in this, isn't he?
I thought Poirot. I literally was watching it and I love Poirot.
Because he's really, instead of like a companion, he's the guy that's helping out the Doctor. He's like supporting character of the week, and he's the one that believes him and is... I mean, he doesn't actually do that much. I mean, nobody really does that much. They sit there and watch the Doctor in the Matrix most of the time. But I thought it was quite good.
He was an interesting one because until it started a bit frustrating in that they've asked him to come back. He's been called back. And then no one, like, they're all against him. And I was like, oh, he's got to explain himself. I hate all this. He only didn't believe for like 5-10 minutes. And then once, well, maybe longer. And basically until the assassination. And then he was like, okay, convince me. But I don't know. I was a bit like on the fence with him for a while. I was like, I just hate it when it's a lot of like having to convince people.
So was it the Master that called him back?
Well, it must have been, yeah. It must have been.
Is that ever explained?
Yeah, but that's why no one knew who he was.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I was like, surely he can be like, you've called me back, I'm here.
Yeah, but he might have just like... Oh, no, yeah, because that's at the end of the Hand of Fear, isn't it? It's not like Genesis of the Daleks. Ooh, we're being taken by the Time.
It's not something I've ever thought about.
Because I was thinking that, because I was like, he's running, because he leaves the TARDIS straight away, because they're like, oh, he's a criminal, but because of all the exile stuff, he's been like pardoned for all of that, isn't he? So he shouldn't be running away from everyone, but he's acting like a criminal straight away.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And I was a bit like, what? Why have you brought him back? And then everyone's being hard work about it.
But it's the Master that brings him back, right?
So that's what I was saying. I don't know if it's actually.
Well, then they say, the Time Lords then say that there's an unauthorized crafting, but it still doesn't make sense why the Doctor would act like a criminal. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Just because he's a rebel lad, that's why.
Like straight away, he's already got the disguise and like the smoking pipe out, hasn't he? Ready to go.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
I found all that just a bit frustrating. I just get really frustrated when it's that, because it's just so much explanation time. I'm like,
of all the Doctors to randomly have a shisha pipe in the TARDIS,
I love it.
And then we got Chancellor Goth, who has been in Doctor Who before, the actor. A couple of times. He was Gulliver in The Mind Robber.
Yeah.
Hang on, which one was the Mind Robber?
Second Doctor, Land of Fiction, Rapunzel.
Oh, yeah, Gulliver! I remember Gulliver.
You just say character words until
TARDIS explodes and you get a great shot of it. You'll spin him round the console.
Cancelled.
I liked Gulliver, didn't I?
But also he was he played a Time Lord in the War Games, so it could be the same character. He's one of the guys that sent the Doctor onto exile in the first place. So if you want to link up things there,
I like that.
Yeah, he could be the same guy.
So
maybe the Doctor really
they really thought about that, you know.
I didn't really get the Sherlock Holmes or Poirot thing, but I think the reason for that is it's obvious from the off who the assassin is. Surely,
Well, I didn't think so.
No.
Not
really,
until the
I might have just seen it too many times, but he looks evil.
He's that evil thing, but I didn't know what it was.
I'm exactly the same as you. Until I saw the credits, I had no idea. That I saw the Master pop up the credits, like, oh, that's unlucky.
Don't they say it in part one though? Doesn't he? I swear he says it.
No, there is nothing.
There's nothing about the Master. I don't think there's anything mentioned until it's when they find the shrunken thing.
Episode 2, and he says he's talking to then the weird face thing. At this point, it's just weird facing to me. And he says something like, Master, you've got to something. And he's like, no. And then he talks about like, he's my eldest enemy and I need to, and he has that dialogue. But he says to him like, Master, you need to. And that was the first time they referenced Master. There's no reference to Master in that first, which is why I was just like, please point out otherwise. I'm sure someone will but I was so like floored when that appeared. I was like, what have I bloody missed?
I believe you, but I feel like there is.
I suppose it's weird to come to it.
I believe you, but you're wrong.
I suppose if like fans or whatever are watching it now, you're already going to know it's the Master. It's quite rare that someone's going to go into this not knowing that it's the Master, I think.
Because I am a big fan of the Master. Like, oh, big love there. And it just didn't feel like the Master in any way.
Yeah.
No.
I get that.
And so I just didn't connect it in any way to the Master. Like, to me, that could have just been any really... We've had other bad characters from Gallifrey. It could have been any bad character from Gallifrey because the performance itself didn't feel mastery. And I get it's not I know it's not the same actor, and I know all that, but
could have been the meddling monk.
It could have been. It could have been like anyone with like a scarred face that doesn't like the Doctor at that point, or it could have, any person from. I liked that it was the Master. I just didn't feel like the performance was the Master.
It's difficult. That mask is a bit because the mouth doesn't move. It's literally someone in a mask for me. I mean, it looks cool.
I was getting so frustrated with that.
Yeah.
There's a website that has all the transcripts of every Doctor Who story on.
Are you on there?
I've just gone on there.
Are you looking for the Master?
Are you
This is what Luke writes in his spare time.
In part one, just as the TARDIS is like transducted away, it then goes to a scene with, I think it's the first scene you see the Master, and the man says to him, "All his actions are exactly as you predicted, Master." That's the only thing. I can see that going both.
It could be Master of Land of Fiction.
Yeah.
It could be anyone. Anyone.
Yeah. I think it does look great though, especially
it's an amazing
really costume. That close up on his face, it actually looks quite scary. It's a mask, scary. But it still looks horrible.
Yeah, no, I looked at that and I was like, that's a freaky monster we have this week.
It is sinister, and I really like it. I love the Master in this era. Like I've said before, based on audio work that I've listened to from Geoffrey Beevers, that Geoffrey Beevers is my favourite Master. So this sort of era of Master that we're in now, where it's the decayed form, I just love it. I can't get it off. It's like crack for me.
It's me or Mark that's going to tell him.
I know that this isn't Geoffrey Beevers. I'm not stupid. I know it's not Geoffrey Beevers. What I'm saying is it's the same era. It's the same decayed form.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Of Master. I know it's not Geoffrey Beevers. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, does that mean I'll warm to it? But
there's a slight spoiler in what he said there that this Death Master will come back at some point.
It's an interesting choice to do that.
Well, you see it at the end, it's indicated because he goes off.
Fair one.
But at least you've got that. They could have just gone for another actor, but then you wouldn't have any in this whole story. It would just be all guys in robes, basically, and that's it. Though, so you need him to look like that, I suppose. You need something, a monstery type.
Clothes watch a minute for Mark.
Yeah.
Look how excited you are at that. Your little face. I really like the robes that they wear.
Oh, so good.
I was going to say,
this is where you first see the colours, and they go right through the series, don't they? They're like really
colour scheme that they've got going on. Like, I don't know what it means, but I like the complementing colour scheme, and it matches the room. I enjoy it.
If you want to know what it means, you can go deep into a Doctor Who wiki hole.
I like the fact that they're not all the classic red one, the red Pridonian ones that we see in New Who, because we don't really see any of the other colours at all in New Who at all. It's all red all the time. But it's so nice to see all the different colours denoting the different houses, and also the President's white robe, I think, is the best Time Lord costume I've ever seen. I would say. I really like it.
On that point for the President, so when he's walking out, that stage is sloped and he's really struggling to walk down. It's at an angle. And he's wearing brown loafers, if you look carefully.
He's got all of those robes and everything. But if you look...
Because I was looking at his feet, because I was watching him steadily try and get down that slope without falling over. And he's just got brown loafers. You do all of that outfit and you don't bother with the shoes.
I reckon he had elegant slippers on
Yeah.
And they got onto the set, like these beautiful, like velvet white slippers or something. Yeah. And they got onto the set, and it was that slippy. He was like, I can't do it. So they made him put his old shoes back on.
Yeah.
Well, it's like David Tennant wearing a suit but having Converse on. Maybe that's where the tradition started.
When he falls over, you can see the elastic around his hat. But then they're very carefully not. You don't see it in the other shots where he's lying down. He's got a bit of elastic round holding his hat on.
I've watched this cliffhanger so many times. I've never seen any of these things.
Just as he falls, there's a bit of elastic. Watch it back. But then once he's on the floor, the collar's in the way. You can't see.
Yeah.
I'm literally, it's like every time we talk about something dramatic, there's huge thunder and lightning storms outside.
I actually heard it that time very clearly.
It's really loud.
I did see a flash of lightning before.
I mean, yeah, this story starts off all the Time Lord stuff, even the look, even, everything, all the names of the different places, the Matrix, all of that kind of stuff. It's interesting, though. There's no, like, Omega or anything like that. They've started again with, Rassilon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've never thought about that, really. This is the first one to mention Rassilon?
I think so.
Yeah.
I hope that's right. People
I think
tell
it
me
probably,
if it's not. I think it is.
Oh, they'll tell
like
you,
all the Eye of Harmony stuff and all that kind of stuff. Because I think in the Three Doctors, wasn't it Omega that started out, I think, with the black hole?
Yeah, and then the spin-off.
And then they've just
stuff like retcons it into two. So Omega blows up the star, but Rassilon gets the star. There's a decision made with this story that everything to do with Time Lords up to now is gone, really. They basically start totally fresh again, don't they? Because
this
even
is like the Timeless Child
in the Pertwee, well, it's a timeless children of its time, right? In the Pertwee era, the Time Lords are still quite godlike and carrying on that War Games image. And if I'm right, this was caused a massive storm back in the day with fans that have been around for like 13 years. So this literally was the timeless children of the day.
Because it's funny when you've got, like you said, in the War Games, they're like really scary voices out of nowhere kind of thing. And then in here, you've just got like those two guys having a chat and he gets his robes mixed up and it's all a bit
I love that scene.
And, and it just shows.
I suppose that's the idea, to show that what this society is really like and they're not actually these godlike people.
Well, I can't wait for somebody to be reviewing Timeless Children in 20 years' time and saying, oh, it was necessary because it's needed resetting or something like that. Someone's going to do that in 20 years, and I will be there to tell them they're wrong.
I mean, I love this Gallifrey, though. I think it all looks spectacular. It's what I think of Gallifrey.
I love how dark it all is. Instead of it being all light bright and, glory to the Time Lords and fire and orange sky, it's all dark and moody and broody. I love it. I love it.
When you guys are lost on Gallifrey, it's this Gallifrey, yeah?
Yeah.
This is where I wanted to go, and then I ended up on Glow World and I couldn't see where I was, in this big glass ball.
But there's not many people. There's not, apart from that scene where they're all waiting for the president, and I've put nobody claps when the president walks out. They all just stand there. He's just sort of going like this to nobody, to no one, as if someone should be clapping. I feel like they should be clapping or cheering.
Mark wants like the Jubilee. He wants everyone to get the Gallifrey flags out and give them away.
There's just nothing. They're just standing there in silence. There's nothing.
It's quite
my favourite, right, is when he's dead. And there was that, like, he's dead and he's lying there. And there was this one guy that he saw. He just walked up, looked, and then walked.
Whoa!
Wow! Oh my god! That is
that was violent.
I'm not even joking. Something across the room just fell over. Like Mabel's cat tower just shot across the room.
Why do I feel like I'm about to appear in Unfriended 2?
I'm sorry. Okay. I will be back in a sec because I genuinely think something's happened. So as everyone's going out of the corridor, just one sec.
What do you think happened in there?
I don't know.
I actually think it's struck our building.
Wow, I wouldn't be surprised.
Like, when neighbour's TV just went off, like it just took all of her electrics out of her building, of her flat. Nuts.
It's Mark's fault.
Anyway.
I was blame Mark. Yeah, it's Mark's fault.
Anyway.
Right, I'll get us back on track.
So if I suddenly like, no, that's why. I might have been taken out by electric or something. I don't know.
So the president's dead. We're into part 2, and then and then the Doctor is put on sort of this mini trial that just sort of all happens. That was where I was getting a bit
like the politics stuff.
I didn't mind that. It was quite quick. I
like that bit.
He's a Mariners trial, sure, but like
it was a lot faster than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it could have been strung out a bit longer. And then also, this is where, so we know Goth is bad.
But that's for the viewer, not for... Yeah, so they're trying to make it a bit of a...
Well, it's a bit like in part 3 when he's in the Matrix. It's probably a lot more uncomfortable for him to be walking around with a big black net over his face. But like, it holds it off for a bit more.
And then it came as a complete shock, the reveal for me. I didn't see it coming.
Same.
Well, who did you think it was?
I didn't know.
I just thought it was some random dude. Master just gets random people to do things sometimes.
I don't know why when the president was shot, like they're not just locked in a room and you find that like they're meant to be the most civilized people ever. And there's like 10 of them in a room and someone's just been killed. Surely they'd just be locked in and at least searched. Because Goth's got a gun in his pocket.
I thought the coolest thing was that, like, when we got to part 3 and it was the hunter and the hunted sort of thing, I really did think they went, full Matrix, where like the Master had this, residual self-image that he could manipulate into what he wanted to be in the Matrix. Like that was the power of his Artron energy, that he could turn into this safari hunter guy instead of being like a disheveled husk. It really did come as a surprise that it wasn't him. Yeah, I know, that's what I mean, but I thought he was. It completely threw me.
I thought, was it the Master? Was it... We're introduced to a lot of characters as well. So, like, I think, like, you've got...
Runcible.
Lots of, like, side assistants and side characters and stuff like that. And you just think... it could have been anyone. I really was surprised when it was that president, because also you hadn't seen him for ages. I mean, it turns out you have, but like, seen him.
Obviously, the story stands up, and it still has that mystery to this day. So that's pretty good. And this is where the big clue for the Master is, because someone left that Action Man in the telescope at the top of the thing. And so, so Sarah, did you remember that that's happened before? Was that a clue, or
did people remember that?
No, I clocked it. As soon as I saw that he was miniaturized, there we go. There's the spot. There's Chekhov's gun.
I think. I'm
thinking about it. I should have, because that's what happens coming up, doesn't it, Mark?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, it happens a lot. Like the Master's done it before, and in the upcoming new Master, and that happens. It does happen a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so
they kind of retired it for a bit though, and they only really brought it back with the Sacha Dhawan Master. Didn't really do it with John Sim at all.
They brought it back. A big
definitely
way.
Coming back.
Definitely.
Oh God. From like the point of view of Runcible, though, he does just see an action figure and scream.
That was Runcible.
Like, obviously, we know it's a dead person, but if you saw it, it would just look like an action figure, and he screams.
Yeah, but maybe Runcible knows about miniaturization and what it can do and stuff. I don't know. Runcible might be a lot cleverer than we all think.
No, the Doctor hates Runcible, so
no one likes Runcible.
Oh, I like it.
He's like the mole man of Gallifrey. No one's gay for Runcible.
Just, not everyone's a likable character.
Well, he doesn't last very long. He gets stabbed, doesn't he? So
yeah.
That's it.
I'm sorry. Like, there was what I didn't get, or what I did get but didn't get, was, so he screams and he faints. So he's going into that thing, and he screams and he faints, and then someone comes and takes the discs out, and then goes, and then that's never mentioned.
Well, because they're going to check the CCTV, basically, aren't they? And then it gets taken out. Or does it get? Oh, do they?
They don't. I don't think they do.
No,
so, like, I don't know.
The master takes the CCTV out, doesn't he?
Yeah, but then why didn't they go like a line of the CCTV is gone or something like? Oh, I don't know. Not that exact line. Something better.
Because they didn't. Because obviously they weren't watching the bill enough at the time. That was the problem. In fact, was the bill even on?
Not in the 70s. I feel that's more like 90s. Or maybe 80s.
I think it's either 84 or 74. I'm not sure now.
I used to love the bill.
Is this a good time to bring up the Time Lords just die in this story?
Well, is there a mention that are you talking about the president?
Like all Time Lords, like there's 4 killed in the first 2 parts, and they're just shot,
thought about that.
or they're just stabbed, and they don't regenerate or anything like that. Like Runcible, it's not an instant kill; he's dying. He should technically.
Well, I've got a theory on this that explains every single one. Right?
Hit us.
Okay. Runcible isn't a Time Lord. He's a Gallifrey, and he doesn't have regenerations. He's too dumb to be a Time Lord, so therefore he doesn't regenerate. That's my theory with that one. The President is probably on his last one, so that's why he straight up dies.
It happens in a lot of Time Lord stories, though.
Very likely on his last one, dies instantly, because obviously they rule for a couple of 100 years and then they just sod off. Don't say what it was. Who's the 4th one?
There's a guard that's killed, like...
Same again, not a Time Lord. Yeah. Not a Time Lord. Gallifrey.
I think that maybe on Gallifrey, the rules don't apply.
That's what I think as well.
I think, like, if you're off the planet, you can regenerate, but when you are in its atmosphere or something...
But then a lot of them don't ever leave Gallifrey, which is the only thing that lets that down.
That doesn't
That's because they have a job there.
That doesn't work for one reason. Saying that though, if they're on their last ones and they don't, but they explain the master because it's his rage that keeps him going, nothing else. Whereas the Time Lords that die here wouldn't. I think it's just that. I think it's just simple coincidence that those 2 high-ranking Time Lord presidents are going to be on their last regeneration.
I think it's
by
just
default.
The writer forgot.
Yeah, it's a big thing to forget, though.
Because it's a big thing. It's a big plot hole, really, because in the same story, they mention the 13 regenerations, or 13 bodies.
Yeah.
But everyone seems to be on the 13th body in this one.
And while we're on it...
Not all Gallifreyans are Time Lords, which is why I don't think... They wouldn't have Runcible as a Time Lord, would they?
Yeah, but Goth
They knew him in school.
Goth might be on his last one. He's a high-ranking Time Lord.
Runcible must be, like, old enough... He knew of the Doctor, because they were in school together. They talk about it.
Yeah, but you only get your set when you finish,
school.
Don't you? And he didn't finish.
But
did he not?
I don't think so. Wait a minute, though. Oh God! Oh, I think I've knitted myself into a problem here. I don't think did William Hartnell finish. Oh dear God!
It stopped.
What?
Brain activity. Look, there's nothing.
You mean he's dead?
Oh, virtually. I warned him of the psychic shock of that environment.
But he's still breathing.
Motor functions often continue for some. He's back.
Well, in part 2, we are introduced to the whole Matrix thing. Way before Keanu Reeves, obviously, it's this story is bringing a lot of stuff. Star Wars, Matrix. It's ahead of its time.
Minority Reports.
Yeah. So, and then we go into the Matrix, and this is where it gets very interesting. We're on film. We're going very surreal. I love all this stuff. Part 2. Okay, really great cliffhanger. The train, and his foot gets stuck in the
thing.
That's the worst cliffhanger of the 3, though, isn't it?
Yes.
I thought it was really good.
It's a good one. It's just out of the 2 either side of it are so much better.
Oh.
I think the train. I think the resolution of the train cliffhanger is so dumb.
Oh.
I think.
Well, I like a little train. I do like a train. When you go to like theme parks, or when there's that sort of little train, not like a big steam train, a little one, more for like kids going through like a forest or something. I like that kind of little train. Do you know what I mean?
I think
you say little train, Mark. Just say one more time. Little train.
It's a little train. It was. It was.
I don't know. I just thought it was a fun. How are you going to get out of that? Oh, yeah, it is a complete. Obviously, it's a Matrix. Nothing's wrong. But then all of part 3, is it padding or is it exciting?
No, it's exciting because about 3 minutes in, they say like that he can't do that anymore. He can't just go. It's an illusion. It becomes like a thing. So there's like the bit with the doctor and the syringe, and then there's the eyes in the cliff, and then something happens, and like Goth's voice comes and says like it's too strong now, so you can't just deny it, which is why he has to go to the proper battle.
Oh, because I was thinking when he said about the water and stuff, I was like, well, it doesn't matter if he has water or not, but it does.
It's definitely a line there. It's the first time I've spotted the line though.
Right.
Which makes it a proper 1 versus 1 to the death thing.
The only thing that makes episode 3 shit is that rubbish spider that crawls down when he's under that bush. It's one only flaw with it. Everything else is perfect.
Oh, I'm not a fan of the big egg thing that he steps in. I don't know the point of that. It's not like Terror though, is it? It's not.
A lot of it reminded me a mix of the Toy Maker. Do I mean the Toy Maker?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's the one where Zoe's in a sequin suit?
Oh, Mind Robber.
That's bad.
Mind Robber. It reminded me of a bit of a weird mix of those two.
It is a bit. Yeah. I do like them episodes when anything goes and it's just random.
Me and Mark talked about like there's like a few directions of Doctor Who. You've got like forward, backwards, and to the side.
Sideways, yeah.
Sideways.
This is very sideways. It is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit. I do like it, but watching it recently, I was like, "Where's the plot? Where's the?" This would never come out on soundtrack because someone would have to narrate that whole episode. You know where they do the like. There's hardly any dialogue.
Oh god, it's so visual. Like, really, really visual.
I mean, I like it's part 2 with the big samurai man when he chops his scarf. That's cracking. How horrible is the scream on that as well? It's a proper.
Yeah. But then you see the dummy just falling off.
I don't know.
I think
I thought it was a really good one.
I think it's all right as well.
I think the Doctor with the syringe was just so trippy, but there's so many good trippy moments. Like even the World War I gas mask soldier coming out of the mist as well. Like that's so just so ethereal. Like it just works, and it proper. Gave me like I know Empty Child comes out so much later, but it just like it took me back there, and I was like, oh, that's kick ass. That just works.
I mean, poor kids watching that. Yeah, watching that with all those images. It's not just like a clown, a gas mask. It's just everything in one like nightmare episode.
Great. I loved the clown. I really loved the blood. When he like imagined his blood away, I was like, oh, I like that. I don't know why.
That's the bit when he asserts the reality. And he can't do anymore because the blood vanishes and then it comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like watching a PSA, public service announcement to stop kids from jumping in quaddies and shit from that sort of era.
And doing drugs. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, it's all that kind of thing. And it leads up to the Doctor, this drowning bit. And this is the height of Mary Whitehouse saying Doctor Who is too violent and everything. And I've got her book here, actually, called...
I would like to bother that off you, actually.
It's called A Most Dangerous Woman.
My own personal inside story. And she doesn't mention Doctor Who, unfortunately. But actually, reading her side of things, she's saying about violence that, you shouldn't show kids violence, so they're going to copy stuff or it's going to be disturbing for them or anything. But she also says there's another view of sort of violence on the news and everything, shows the sort of violent side of life and how it can sort of work in the other way. And she says she's for both sides of it. And it's quite interesting since she lists all the violent things she's seen on TV and like, but the things she lists are like police shows and more sort of real life stuff. There's no fantasy stuff in there.
I'm quite torn on it. I think she's probably got a point actually on this one, because I don't think it's just the freeze frame of the head under the water. which is what people fixate about when they talk about it. I think it's the build up to it, because you have just had like 15 minutes of a to the death situation, and then that water fight goes on for about a minute where they're just punching each other over and over again.
I mean, it does look a bit like he's drown, like attempting to drown him as well, which is also very sort of. When I was sat down, I was thinking, Doctor wouldn't drown someone, would they?
No, I know, and I think, like she has got a bit of a point. I think it is a little bit too far for Doctor.
I honestly think, right, just little aside about Mary Whitehouse, I think, how can you be so extreme about so many things and yet be somehow in the middle at the end of it all? Like, I just think she's just so like interesting, but not in a good way. Like to to read about and watch about. I saw the BBC documentary about her earlier on in the year, and it's kind of got me a little bit wanting to learn more about her. So I've been doing all the, Monty Python, Life of Brian controversy stuff as well. So I didn't realize that she'd managed to get a teeth into Doctor Who, though, because a lot of the stuff I was reading about was her war against pornography, and especially child pornography, which I thought was really interesting, that it was so, like, pretty much before her, it was almost considered permissive in a way. Well, not permissive, but you know what I'm saying. I just think she's very interesting individual, but I never knew she took a stab at Doctor Who.
Yeah, I feel like she's quite, Doctor Who and other things around that time. That's what people remember her for. But actually, she did loads of other stuff. She's always in and out of Parliament in this book. She's having meetings every day and meeting people.
She was on the phone to Margaret.
Yeah, she's on the phone to her in this all the time, and it is quite interesting.
But yeah,
I think it is one of those things though that like you do sort of become immune to it, and there's like when I definitely think when I think of COVID and you were just getting the facts and things, and to begin with, I remember having fear. I was really like, gosh, what if I get it? What was that? And then very quickly, you sort of become immune to the news of it. And I mean, it's not violence, but it's sort of like a different form of information aggression, I guess, isn't it? Because it's just there constantly. I go like there was just, it was everywhere, and that's all there was. And I guess, especially with the war at the minute in Ukraine,
it's just scaremongering.
It's just, to begin with, you had a lot, and you don't see it as much, but if you want it, it's always there, and you sort of become a bit immune to it. You sort of like, I think there's a sort of immunity that comes with violence and with, scaremongering and stuff like that. I just think like, I'd sort of think, I don't know. I think she's going to point on some things.
I see Doctor Who more as variety, because it doesn't necessarily age up with the kids. Because I mean, if you look at a story like Inferno, for example, in Pertwee's run, that is fucking dark. Like seriously, it's like.
And you love Inferno.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Of course, I love it. But the point is, it is seriously dark, and there is a lot of violence and other things. And the Brig has possibly the best line ever in all of Doctor Who as well. I just think it's absurdly dark, and like that was 5 or 6 years before this. Like, I just think Doctor Who it has such a broad range. It should never ever be considered a kids show. Like, I know it was originally like Hartnell run maybe, but I think once you get to colour, it's not necessarily a kids show anymore. It's like, if such a thing could exist, it's a teen show, but it's before its time in a way, if you get what I'm saying.
I mean, you say Hartnell, but Hartnell's got like the massacre, which is just people getting gunned down. I got to say though, for the drowning scene, when I was a kid, I never had an issue with it. It didn't scare me or anything like that. I wasn't too bothered.
But also,
you
overanalyze it as an adult a bit, I think.
Yeah, maybe, because as a kid, you want it to be as violent and as shocking as possible.
Kill him. And I know I've said this before, but you read the Roald Dahl books, and they're pretty violent, the kids' books. You read like the Twits, or you read like the poems, and like the pig, for example, he eats the farmer, like, or like they eat the boy. Like, that's what they do. They're really violent and scary. And how is that different reading? And also bear in mind, parents would read this. It's all right saying, okay, well, I read it, but parents will read this to their children. So how is that any different? Me reading The Witches, where like these women turn over and then try and eat children. how is that any different and less scary? That was also made into a film for children than what we see. I don't know. I just think like kids like gore. They like scary things. That is one thing that you can guarantee with kids. Goosebumps made a whole franchise out of it.
Is it something to do with the fact that it's a doctor being violent? Like we've seen extras have these fights, like in Colony in Space and stuff. But like here it is the doctor for ages punching over and over again, and then getting put in the water. I don't know.
I think the argument is though it's not reality.
Well, that's the thing. It is a fantasy, and but in the freeze frame, I think
dies in the Matrix. Dies.
Yeah.
So it's still got an impact. You can say it's the doctor's mind.
The freeze frame I love all the freeze frames cliffhangers. They add so much more drama to it.
Bring back freeze frames.
They should, There should be freeze frame every week.
Bring back Doctor Who cliffhanger first, like.
yeah, that's what you need with a freeze frame. Definitely.
Just before the fight, why does Goth suddenly set on fire? I felt like I missed something. He's in the water.
Oh yeah,
that was weird.
Yeah.
He just suddenly sets on fire. Yeah, it's cool. It's great.
Now, when I saw that, I thought that it was the Doctor trying to take control.
Well, like in like mind wise, he's like
comes it up.
Oh yeah, he's running low
burn him alive.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. He's running low on energy, so he's burning himself out. I think. Is that what it's supposed to be?
Oh right, yeah, that explains it. I got to say, well, no, sorry. I was going to get back to the clown. There's only one comment. I don't even I'm not scared of clowns. I don't even hate clowns, but I hate the clown in this.
the noise of the clown. That.
I mean,
that clown is so Stephen King clown.
It is.
Is this pre-it as well? This story is just.
Oh, it could be actually.
I think it is.
80s, 83, isn't it?
Yeah, 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Curry had just been finishing off Rocky Horror at this point.
Yeah, so
there's some context
as well.
for you.
There we go.
Let's see what Rocky Horror there is, isn't it?
Well, that brings us back to Europe again. Oh, no, it doesn't bring us back to Europe. Sorry, I always think Time Warp was done by Europe for whatever reason. Don't know why.
Just see Mary Whitehouse drowning.
No, we're on. That's just my notes.
She didn't like that scene. I think apparently the BBC had to cut it on the repeat. A bit of it. I was reading.
Yeah, they did.
So.
If we're going on to part 4, I like how it feels like it's ended 10 minutes early, a bit like the Hand of Fear did last week, but then subverts that because the Hand of Fear finished so Sarah Jane could get send off. Whereas this, you could almost be tricked into thinking it's the end. He's fought the Matrix, and then it's actually the Master hasn't even started his big thing.
Then more stuff happened.
And then is it Barusa saying about covering it all up and all of that?
Yeah, I like that sort of politics.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I said on that bit that I would watch a Gallifrey thick of it.
It does feel very thick of it, yeah.
Can you imagine?
It'd be fantastic.
That's the spin-off we need for Russell T, I think.
I mean, you could actually have Capaldi back in that.
You could.
In the role. Yeah,
Malcolm Barusa.
My problem with sort of episode 4 is 2 things. One, there's nobody around. There's just the 4 of them running around. Where is everyone on Gallifrey when all of this stuff's going on? There's no crowds running. There's no. I know.
I don't know.
Mark, I don't miss
the scale is a bit too small.
The guy that just walked up to a body and was like, and then walked away. I don't miss any of the extras.
It just felt a bit really small all of a sudden.
I think they just blew all the budget on the costumes.
When all the roof's falling in, it's just like rocks. Surely it should be bits of building and where are all these rocks coming from?
Take a punch at the end. It's so epic, the ending. They're having a proper brawl.
No.
Then the Master falls down a hole and
he can't really move around in the costume, and the plastic sash of Russell on his cardboard is getting stuck.
They're having a proper fist fight on the stairs. There's rocks coming down.
My biggest gripe with that whole thing is that it's so obvious with the Master's mask that he's struggling to talk through it. They should have had an actor doing that and then the Master off but talking into a microphone so it was clearer.
Yeah, but they only figured that out with Vader the following year, so don't worry about it. They're about to fuck up.
I think like the fact it comes through a mask sort of gives it, because he's like dead, isn't he? So it makes it sound weirder.
But it's not like an epic sort of face-to-face thing. The Master falls down that hole while the Doctor's busy. The Doctor's busy doing something else. Doesn't even notice him going. Like, it's not like an epic battle and he's trying to, It
is. They go up the stairs and he kicks him down. But I know what you mean. Yeah. Like the
Doctor's doing something else. He's not even noticing.
It's a bit naff when he just falls down a crack. Like, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
And he's just like putting those, what are they called? Those sort of Halford straps on the Eye of Harmony.
The Eye of Harmony, the most dangerous black hole. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I don't know. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
You know what my big question is? When does he nick it?
What?
What?
Well, the Doctor has to steal it at some point because he ends up with it, doesn't he?
What?
Oh, the Eye of Harmony?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Over to Mars.
That's the whole. No, we can't even go there.
I've got to ask.
No, there's an answer. You just have it. You've not completed all.
Isn't there like a link in every TARDIS or something?
Yeah,
like
every TARDIS has an Eye of Harmony.
Every TARDIS has.
And then there's an Eye of Harmony on Gallifrey, and the link.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's fine. I just thought the Doctor had just decided to take it for no reason, just because he could. Maybe he was Time Lord Presidents or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark, what? Because you've been a fan since like the 90s.
Yeah.
So obviously, like the 13 Regenerations thing, was that like a big deal to you as a growing up fan? That the Doctor could only have 13 lives.
It was always a thing. I remember thinking, "Oh wow, what if there's an 8th Doctor?" Before it was like when there was only 7. And that was it. I was thinking, wow, I wonder what. Wow, there's going to be a 12th Doctor one day. I wonder that was like never going to happen. And yeah, it was weird. Yeah, I can't really say spoilers and stuff, but
yeah,
I think I used to think about it. I think, and again, it's hard to talk about, I suppose. But I used to think about it and think, oh God. So we're running out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a definite.
This was a question. This was a question I wanted to put to all you. Like, we've seen this, and Brain and Morbius comes soon after. Why did this rule of 13 stick in this episode, but the Morbius Doctors didn't? Like, why does this episode, Deadly Assassin, with the canon that it espouses and establishes, stick, but other canon, what's considered canon breaking or canon defining things don't stick? Like, what makes it tick?
It's strange, isn't it? I think that the Brain and Morbius one is that it can be ambiguous. It can be Morbius, whereas this one is stated outright as fact.
Is it only because of the Master saying? Because he has to run. That's why it's just explaining it. It's just because of the Master, isn't it?
And
that's
also, I think
reason.
A lot of this stuff might have stuck because this was the classic high point of Doctor Who. So it went into the zeitgeist. It's like a lot of the Tennant stuff sticks, doesn't it? Whereas compared to other stuff.
Because I think, here you got, this is your big Time Lord story, and then by the time they get to like the 80s,
no one should remember an Arc of Infinity.
I mean, this is by the time they get to the 80s, they're just looking back at that sort of more golden.
Well, yeah, and that just
and taking it from that. Yeah, they're not going to invent their own stuff in the 80s. They haven't got the.
I mean, this isn't me being like a timeless child apologist or anything like that, but like, I was expecting more to come from it than a throwaway line that then means, the Master's now decaying, which kind of breaks the rule in the first place, sort of thing. Like, I thought, because I do not remember watching this, despite what you say, Luke. I don't. This is definitely my first run through of this episode. And I sort of built it up in my mind as this, there's this big legendary sort of, this is like the 10 Commandments of Doctor Who sort of thing, like, it has to be passed down. And it kind of wasn't. And then it got me thinking, well, why do Doctor Who fans get the panties in a twist over this being broken like I do? But with other things, they don't.
I think it's, and I can see Sarah's so done with this conversation, but I think it's because every book and spin-off or whatever up until 2010, so that's 25, 30 years of external Doctor Who has just come back to the Deadly Assassin. And
but is it because it gives it an end? I mean, like, there's not other things that just rules. Do you know what I mean? They're just like things that come, whereas this gives almost a definite end. It gives
I like it as well, because it gives it a bit of threat, doesn't it? That
exactly.
He could actually die.
When you're on 7 and you're like, 13, can you imagine if it's 13 doctors? Like Mark said, 13. But like, it feels so far off and final, because that means that then it's over. What happens? Well, apparently nothing. So therefore, this thing that I love is over. So coming back to it means coming back to what you were just saying, it means it sort of is more of an issue for you, because that's what ends what you love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's a big story. So
a moment to talk fan philosophy, like Doctor Who.
I think you have to with this story, don't you?
There's no other story up until here that has sparked that, really. Not even like
the War Games. So big at this point. It's it's got the balls to look back and to create its own mythology, which sets it down a very slippery slope in the future.
So, Sarah, overall, then, what did you think of this story?
I just struggled to begin with, but I did enjoy it.
Okay.
Like, good. I'm trying to think if I was to rate it. That's probably an easier way. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10. There's a lot to take away that was good, that I enjoyed. I think it's one that if you're a big fan, there's a lot to take away. But equally, because I've just never... It's one like watching this in order and watching it for the very first time. You can like... I just took it as what it was. And I don't think I'd really appreciate it until later. Because you're living in it and it's what happened. I don't see it as like any big episode. It's in the middle of the season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the Doctor not having a companion or anyone. How do you feel? Because Tom Baker's great in this. He carries the whole thing. He's brilliant. We haven't talked about that, but he is.
He's great, isn't he? He's really so alien in this. He manages to like just invert every line, and that's what makes him alien. I was thinking of the bit when he's calling Runcible the fatuous in the TARDIS, but he's saying it with a massive grin on his face, not bothered. You can imagine how a lot of other Doctors would play that. It'd be like, oh, it's Runcible, the fatuous. But he's like,
it's so different to Pertwee. Like the Third Doctor, it would be so different.
Yeah,
I can imagine Second Doctor being good at this.
Yeah, me too.
But Third Doctor was an Earth Doctor.
The third Doctor did part 1 would have just karate chopped the guy trying to kill the president.
The Third Doctor would have shot the president.
Yeah, exactly. Must relive my dreams.
I like the costume as well, that he hasn't got a scarf or anything. He looks a bit more feral and up for a fight. And yeah.
You know what?
But it's interesting you say that about like him feeling alien, because actually that's the diversity of him as an actor. In that in an Earth situation, when he has a companion, you can relate to him as like an Earth-like character. Yet on his, what we consider his home planet, surrounded by aliens, he feels so obscure and different. Yeah, it's still the Doctor. I don't doubt for a second that he's playing the character in a different way or anything. Like, he's playing it all the same. Yet how he interacts and plays, that's a good actor. That's a good actor that just knows this character and knows how he's playing it and how to play it, and knows, which is what the Second Doctor was. Like, just an amazing actor.
He's a fantastic character actor, and so is Tom Baker as well. But I thought it's just occurred to me, like, this is the first episode without Sarah Jane, and it's weird how little you sort of miss her. Just because you're captivated by Tom's performance throughout.
I think the story is just so good, and Tom's just so good that you sort of forget her, don't you? Yeah. And to be honest, as much as I like it, she had hung around, you know.
Yes.
It's very good to put a Sarah Jane story on, but if you do what you do, which is watch it from beginning to end, you are like, she's been around a long time by the end of it.
Been a bit long in the tooth now.
I also do like the Master in this, just as a more dangerous and like volatile thing, like a perception of death. Just because he's gone from like being a smooth criminal to being properly don't sing.
It won't be me, it'll be Mark.
for to like a proper terrifying like visual image, basically. But again, he's like feral and violent, and that just sort of runs through. Connects the Doctor. It connects him with the Doctor as well, and yeah.
What I love though about the Master as a character is there's sort of it's really hard to put your finger on,
like anti-friendship.
Yeah, and
Doctor.
sort of like
best frenemies
connection to them.
Yeah,
and I think that's missing in this story, which is why when it was the Master, it was such a. I mean, I was so surprised, other than to mention it, but there's such like a connection between the Doctor and the Master that he just knows it's the Master, and that does come up later. And it's like, well, this must be the Master. Once they see a small person, they're like, that's the Master, that's his like thing. But I think that's what it was missing. It's all right to have the hatred to keep you alive, but actually, what I love is that they also have a sort of a rapport together, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah, I like it as
kind of a baddie.
I like it as a one-off, really, but I agree. Like the main sort of relationship should be that.
I'm the other way, to be honest. Like I like that it's that the Master, like the Master in this decayed form, isn't truly himself. To be honest, like this is like the closest, in my opinion, that he ever gets to the sort of ragged edge, as it were, really, of like what his character is. I like that they sort of decided they wanted to do something very different from Delgado and go for this feral scavenger, I'll go all the way from like this smooth mastermind to a feral scavenger, but then take it back again with Ainley as well. Like, I just think it, in a way, it took the Master from being what could have easily been a one-note Time Lord villain that just keeps coming back every now and again, a bit like the Meddling Monk is, to turn him into this sort of legendary arch villain of the Doctor Who franchise, akin to the Daleks, that sort of level.
I think it's really difficult to follow up after Roger Delgado, and they probably did the right thing going completely different rather than trying to get someone to do that exact same thing, because it just wouldn't have been as good. So maybe just straight after they had to go completely different. But yeah, the costume is cool, but you just don't get the personality all the way through.
And maybe as well, it's because we don't really see him until the third episode. Like, there's only hints of him. The first episode, it's just that one hint. And the second, there's a bit of dialogue. It's not until the third or fourth that there's any real, like, dialogue or interaction with him.
Well, I think we have thoroughly analysed this story.
I'm so sorry for all my behind the scenes drama as well. Lightning, flashing storms, and
so overall, it is a good story. We are all in agreement on that.
Definitely. I mean, I personally would give it a 9 if I'm doing this more for Luke's rating spreadsheet more than anything else, because I know he likes to get the rating in.
I like me ratings.
It back, so yeah, that's for your benefit, Luke. I would give this a 9.
I agree. I think it's a 9 as well.
I might say 7.
Oh,
7.
Oh,
look at this podcast divide.
Podcast wars.
Well, I need to tell Sarah the name of the next story.
Oh yeah.
4 episodes again.
At least I didn't spoil it like last time.
So the next story is called The Face of Evil.
Oh, okay. I think it'll be the Master.
Okay.
No way.
I think it'll be the Master.
We have watched that one together, Chris, on the train.
I know. We did. I remember. It was fun.
Okay.
Well, we'll find out what happens in that one. Well, thank you very much, Luke and Chris, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people find your podcast?
If you type in
Gallifrey.
Yeah. Type in Lost on Gallifrey, Lost_Gallifrey on Twitter, same on Facebook. Yeah. We're never too far away for another episode. So We're around. And do check out my WordPress blog. Every single Monday, there's 3 Doctor Who stories dropping in the ultimate Doctor Who ranking. I've worked on it for far too long, over a year. And this is going out for 40 weeks. It's not too late to jump on board and see where your favourite stories may rank.
Cool. Well, we'll get let's get Engin to dial us out for the Matrix. And we will see you next week. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at 2watchwho, and you can support us at buymeacoffee.com/2watchwho. See you next week. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. 2 Watch Who.